Welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so great to see you. Thanks for bearing with us as we're in the top of the town today. We are still, on a high from last week's Minority Business Award. Thank you to all of you who came. Today we have an outstanding program to talk about human trafficking, so we are all glad that you're here, and we're so delighted to welcome our guest, Alyssa Francois, who is the regional manager of an organization that does some great work, which you'll hear about in just a moment. To get us started, it's my pleasure to welcome Don Click, owner-broker of Don Click Real Estate, for our invocation. Don?
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for the many blessings that so many of us have seen and received. We ask you to listen carefully to our program today for those that have not received the blessings and need the help. We ask for those that have the ability to help those in need do more. And to quote a wise person, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. I would like to take a little personal privilege, introduce Julie Green. She also has a nonprofit here in Fort Worth focused exclusively on helping the human trafficking.
And now Gary Cumbie, the man from Hawaii.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red flare, the bombs bursting in air, gave through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, and aloha, Gary Cumbie, past president, for stepping in. Well, folks, if you haven't ever been to a Rotary Club meeting, something that we do is we recite our four-way test. This is the hallmark, the foundation of the things that we think, the things that we say, and the things that we do. So if you'll say with me, number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number four, will be beneficial to all concerned. Wonderful. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Jeanette Johnson. She is the business development at the Beck Group. And folks, we are so excited to be able to announce finally our very first in-person social event. And I don't want to steal Jeanette's thunder, so please help me welcome Jeanette Johnson.
Thank you, President Carlo. We are all very excited to be having our first social event. It is going to take place on May 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. A big thanks to Greg Carter at WRG for allowing us to host the event there. Tickets are going to be $20. That includes wine, beer, and appetizers. And we also very much encourage you to bring a friend. This is a great opportunity to introduce them to Rotary. So tickets are available through Eventbrite, and you can find the link in the Rotograph. So thank you, and we hope to see you all there.
Thank you, Jeanette. And I will send an email out to all of the club with the link for Eventbrite. Folks, we would love to have you there in person. We miss seeing you in person. You know, we see you for a few minutes every Friday, but we typically don't get to interact, so this is a great chance to finally see each other in person and chat. Now, to welcome visiting Rotarians and guests with us today, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Joe Michaels, Managing Principal, Solomon Bruce Consulting.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are indeed honored today to have a plethora of guests here with us. Reed Robertson is here as a guest of Paula Parrish. Reed, where are you? Over here. Glad you're here. Bob Mitchell has brought Nancy Mitchell. Nancy, we're glad to see you here today. Bob also brought Patrick Newman. Patrick? Blake Gorman brought Mike Crum. Mike? Chris Nettles came with Jim Austin. Chris? Ed Macklin is here as a guest of Tim Halden. Ed? Fred Schmidt brought two guests, Scott Harbaugh. Scott? And Stacy Bryant came with Fred as well. Stacy? And then Don Click brought Chaplain Julie Green. Chaplain, we're glad to have you with us as well. Mr. President, those are our visiting Rotarians and guests today.
And if you have not introduced yourself, if you are a guest, please stand and tell us loudly who you are and where you're from, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Michaels. Well, now is the moment that most of you have probably been waiting for. We have a special guest Rotarian. You've seen her before, typically on Zoom, but it's so nice to see her in person. Please welcome the President of Dynamic Development Strategies with our traditional newscast. Welcome, Michelle Krim.
Wow, I feel as welcome as Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz at a Girl Scout meeting. All right, let me try again. I feel as welcome as Miss Piggy at an East Texas barbecue. All right, a little better. All right, greetings everybody and welcome. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. Happy Friday to everybody here in person and all the Zoomsters at home. We're glad you're here. Now, I checked my notes, and this is my 6th and probably final time to do the newscast, just because. And I've already apologized to the speaker. I'd like to start with a friendly reminder of today's random holidays. There we go. It is Provider Appreciation Day, National Space Day, National, yes, Tourism Day, which we're all ready to get back and do trips. It is National No Pants Day, which, you know, I kind of think was every day during the pandemic and work from home, and I think Gary Cumby and Bill Fairley still celebrate that pretty often. Yes, Bill, we know. And as a friendly reminder for all of us that email, it is Do Not Reply All Day, which is actually every day. Just don't do it. All right, friends, let's start with politics and the Fort Worth mayor's race. We have 2 amazing, talented women. It is going to be a runoff between Deborah Peoples and Maddie Parker. Now, voters will have a bit of a tongue twister when they go back to the polls on June 5th. Will they pick a peck of pickled Peoples, or will they pick a peck of pickled Parkers? All right, let's stay with politics. Oh, well, thank you. Democrats throw Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer a surprise retirement party and hope he'll just go with it. All right, Facebook. Did you know that Facebook has their own separate oversight board? It kind of acts like a quasi-court over the company's content decisions. This week, they reviewed the social network's decision to ban former President Donald Trump from their platform. Now, on Wednesday morning, the board was comprised of legal experts and human rights leaders on their ruling, and they made the ruling that said the social network was right to bar Mr. Trump after he used the site to, quote, encourage an insurrection in Washington in January, end quote. But the board also said that an indefinite suspension was not appropriate, and the company should apply a, quote, defined penalty, end quote. The board gave Facebook 6 months to make its final decision on Mr. Trump's account status. In an official memo, Mr. Trump stated, "It's fine, I'll just tweet about it later." All right, so in other sad news, it was announced on Monday that Bill and Melinda Gates are ending their 27-year marriage. Ultimately, he just couldn't excel at being a husband, and the relationship had more glitches than Windows 10 and could not be rebooted. All right, folks, let's go on to entertainment. The popular TLC shows 19 Kids and Counting and the spinoff Counting On follows the story of the large Duggar family, their children, and their grandkids. Last week, fans learned the oldest son, Josh Duggar, was taken into custody by Homeland Security. 2 charges were brought against him, 1 count receipt of child pornography and 1 count of possession of child pornography. TLC is looking at a new show based on this, 19 Years and Counting. Yeah, it's bad stuff. Okay, now we got to have a story about Florida, right? So a Florida woman survives being hit by a flying turtle. A 71-year-old woman was riding with her daughter on Florida's Interstate 95, suffered a gashed forehead when a turtle smashed into the windshield of her car, and this is according to the Daytona Beach News Journal. Now, the woman was truly shell-shocked over the incident. The turtle, on the other hand, had the best of luck. It just had a few scratches and was released back into the woods, according to police. Now, no, this was not one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They were briefly investigated. It just turns out that the turtle wasn't ready to come out of his shell. Okay, and finally, Mother's Day is this Sunday, and don't despair about finding a good gift. Just don't do any of these things. Now, after extensive research, and really my personal opinion, here are the top 3 things not to get your mom or any future mom. All right, in 3rd place, don't give her a card from another holiday and $10 she stole from her purse. 2nd place is, this sounds like a good idea and sounds like it's gonna multitask, but don't do it. Don't give her the broom and dustpan slippers, because she'll probably kick you. And finally, don't even think about giving her a plunger. That would just suck. All right, wishing a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers here on earth and up in heaven. Cheers.
Well, that was interesting. Thank you, Michelle, for that almost family-friendly newscast. You know, one of the greatest joys that we have here at Rotary is being able to grant some of the funds from our endowment to the many, many worthwhile nonprofits, especially coming out of COVID. Many nonprofits are had a very difficult time, especially with their budgets. So it is my great pleasure to welcome our good friend Elliot Goldman, who's the founder of GL2 Partners, for a very special check presentation and grant award announcement. Elliot.
Thank you, President Carlo. So much fun. 18 months since we've been able to do one of these in person. I'd like to remind the club that the endowment is made up of contributions by members of the club. And every year, I think it's important to remember Kenneth Baum, who during one of these grants, he made an $80,000 contribution to the endowment, which allows us to fund one of these large grant offerings each and every year. And so I think it's important to remember him, so I wanted to do so right now. The Boys and Girls Club is the recipient. We have Nikki here from the Boys and Girls Club, is the recipient of this year's a grant of $5,000. And the money is going to be used to help them offset their budget of cleaning supplies. The cost of cleaning today, all of the clubs, has just skyrocketed. And so we're in a position to help them, and it's really, really important, and I'm thrilled to be able to make this check presentation to you, Nikki.
On behalf of myself and the 36,000 youth that Boys and Girls Club serves every year, thank you for this. Thanks for keeping kids safe.
Thank you, Elliot, and congratulations, Nicole, and to all our friends at Boys and Girls Club. We appreciate all the great work that you do in the community, so thank you. Now it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage Adrian Galvan. He's the co-owner and managing director of Tijerina Galvan Lawrence LLC for a community outreach update about the Cowtown 5K and a brand new Memorial Flag Day event that we're going to announce. Adrian?
Thank you, President Carlo. So first, I'd like to announce that Rotary has put together a team of 18 runners and walkers that will be participating in the Cowtown 5K tomorrow. So, the even more exciting news is just with the brief announcements on contributing to the nonprofit portion of the Cowtown, the CAF program, the Fort Worth Rotary was able to raise the most money of any other team in Fort Worth. And thank you for your generosity and caring for kids. And our hope is we could put we got 7 months. I'm looking across the room here. We got 7 months of training time. A team of 50 of 100 people, Rotarians wearing Rotarian shirts out in the community. It would make such an impact, and just to be out there in the community. This is the best. I've got a minute. This is the best committee possible. So now I'm going to flip over to the Memorial Day. It's May 30th. And check Rotograph for details, but it's celebrating. Just mark your calendars. Memorial Days. We're going to be placing flags. It's limited spaces. It's just honoring people that have made the ultimate sacrifice. It's very important. Check the details on the screen there. Check for Rotograph for the details, and please sign up. It's going to be an honor to participate in this, and more information will be given in other meetings. Thank you so much. Thank you, President Carlo.
Thank you, Adriana. And if you happen to be out and about cursing all the runners in your way of driving tomorrow, if you happen to be on the 5K course and see us, there'll be many of us Rotarians wearing Rotary shirts. All right, next up is Secretary Blake Mormon, Acting Director of Sales and Marketing for the Fort Worth Convention Center for 3 first readings. Blake?
All right, thank you, President Carlo. So yes, we have 3 first readings today. The first is Mr. Howard J. Ratliff III. His classification, Business and Information Technology. His title there is President and CTO. Company is CompuLabs, etc., LLC. Proposer is past President Fernando Costa. The second person is Mr. Victor Neal. Classification, Associations, Child Welfare. Title, Vice President, Company Hope Farm Incorporated. And the proposer is President-elect Courtney Lewis. And our third and final first reading for today is Ms. Abigail Dudek. Classification, County Government. Title, Public Education and Information Coordinator, Company Tarrant County 911. The proposer is Jim Austin. If no objections are received in the Rotary office by next Friday, May 14th, these proposals will be given second readings and voted on by the club. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Blake. It's exciting to see our club not just surviving during COVID, but thriving. And so thank you to the great work of the membership committee. Now, and in that same spirit, it's my pleasure to announce that we have 2 members who have done their 6 acts of service. They will be converting their red badge to their blue badge. So would Michelle Macklin and Dr. Kim McQuistion please approach the stage, and we will do the customary, we need the red badge back for our budget, and we'll give you your blue badge. Congratulations, Dr. Kim McQuistion. And congratulations to Michelle Macklin. Thank you very much. All right, next up, member spotlight. You may know this person, this next gentleman, but he is quite a man. He is a man of many talents, Mr. Jim Parr, Managing Director of JWP Partners, LLC, to give us a strict 4-minute member spotlight. Jim?
Howdy, everybody. For those of you who in this room and on Zoom at home or in your offices who are 40 years old or less, I have been a member of this Rotary Club your entire lifetime. I joined this club in 1981. My career had taken me to Dallas, and I worked over there for 4 years, making that drive into the sun every morning and home into the sun every afternoon, because I lived in Fort Worth the entire time. And my career, I took a new career path in 1981 and had a chance to come back to Fort Worth. And I met with Willard Parr, former mayor of Fort Worth, who I'd gotten to know through a previous career. And I said, Willard, I'm now going to plant firm roots in Fort Worth. I want not only my career to be here, but I want to really get involved in the community. What do I need to do? And Willard said, Jim, you need to join the Rotary Club downtown, and then you'll figure it out from there. And Willard was right. It's been a great opportunity to make new friends and to find additional opportunities for service above self. I often tell people that I've been proud to be a member of Rotary because of the great things that we do in the community. And President Carlo has done a great job of keeping us up to date on many of those newer opportunities and the short-term quick hit kind of things that we've done over the past year. And the little rack card that encourages membership in Rotary does a great job of presenting many of the long-lasting things that this club got started and then spun off into the community. They missed one that I was personally involved in back in the 1980s. This club helped found what evolved into Tarrant County Crime Stoppers. And we actually had a 5-minute slot on Channel 5 News once a week. And a great police sergeant named Sam Hill, and he was shaking her head, she remembers Sam, would put together an episode each week, and we'd go out and film that and then show it. And this club helped raise the money to fund that initial tranche of anonymous tips. And of course, that, like many other things that this club has gotten started, evolved into a much larger operation and is now Tarrant County Crime Stoppers. Another thing that we've been involved in that's not listed on the card, how many of you know what was the last major city in the United States to have a Navy ship named for it? Fort Worth. That's exactly right. And when our fellow club member, and yeah, I'll go ahead and move to that next, there we go. Our fellow club member, Congresswoman Kay Granger, brought this to our attention over 15 years ago. We engaged and led the community. There were lots of other folks in the community involved in the letter writing campaign, but we actually, folks in those days, we actually wrote letters, handwritten, and sent them to the Secretary of Navy. And so now we've got this beautiful 400-foot ship sailing out of San Diego and carrying the proud name of the USS Fort Worth. Look at that baby. That's 400 feet of steel. I got to meet the young lady who runs the engine on that thing 2 years ago when she and the crew were visiting in town, visited our club. And I asked her, what'll that thing do? And she said, Jim, when they really let me crank it up, it'll do 55 miles an hour and I can put it on plane. Now, if you were an enemy gunboat and you saw that thing coming at you at 55 miles an hour, skipping across the top of the water, I think you'd just throw up your hands and say, okay, that's it. We have supported that ship and its crew through our cooperation with the USS Fort Worth Support Committee. And I want to point out with the next slide, an event that's coming up. 3 years ago, the crew got to come to town and they did a regatta, sailed back and forth on homemade boats across the Trinity River, and your Rotary Club won first place in that regatta. The second year, the water was too fast. The homemade boats wouldn't sail, so they did it in kayaks, and your team won second place in that regatta. By the way, that year, the sailors had their own team, and they came in dead last. Last year, of course, they couldn't have a regatta. That was one of the many things we lost to COVID, but this year we're rescheduled again. And on September 10th, we will again be sailing across the Trinity and back. And your Rotary Club will have a team in that regatta. And Tim Holden, who's back in the back, stand up, Tim, don't just wave. Tim Holden is going to be captaining that crew. And so he is looking for crew members. So on September 10th, we want a great team to sail across and win first place for us again. And we want to host the captain as our speaker that day and 5 crew members who will be in town. So mark September 10th on your calendar. It'll be a great day to support the sailors on the USS Fort Worth. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. And that's just the kind of guy Jim is. Even though he went way over his time, he made it about other people, and that's what really counts. So thank you, Jim, for that spirit of service above self. Thank you. All right, now it's my pleasure to introduce our program, Derek Moffett, Principal of Moffett Financial Strategies. And for folks on Zoom, we'll be showing a video. I posted a link to that video in the chat box, so in case you can't hear or see through Zoom, just click on that link. It'll open the video, and you can watch it in your comfort of your own home or business as we're watching it here online. So please help me welcome Derek Moffett.
Well, as many of you know, I have a fear of getting the You Thought You Were the Program Award, so my introduction will be brief. When you hear the name International Justice Mission, you may think IJM is a DC comic movie associated with the Justice League. But the employees and volunteers of IJM are not comic strip heroes. They're real heroes. Heroes who dedicate their lives to the service above self and partner with local authorities in 24 program offices and in 14 countries. IJM works to combat slavery, violence against women and children, and police abuse of power. I first learned about IJM over 10 years ago at the Catalyst conference I attended in Atlanta. I heard Gary Haugen tell the story of IJM. In 2017, I traveled to Nairobi, Kenya, where I had the opportunity to visit the local IJM office. After promising not to disclose the office's location, we walked through bulletproof glass and into a conference room where the IJM staff shared their work about how they combat police brutality and corruption in Kenya. IJM put heightened security measures in place after one of their agents was murdered on the way to court. He was defending an innocent man of a wrongful conviction and exposing police corruption. Today, I want to introduce to you Alyssa Francois. Alyssa works with IJM's volunteer network across the Southwest in the United States. She partners with the supporters of IJM to pray, advocate, and fundraise to fuel IJM's missions of protecting 500 million people in poverty from violence by 2030. Alyssa is a native Texan. She's a graduate of Texas A&M University. Whoop, yes. And she resides in the Far East, living in Dallas with her husband, Travis. Please welcome IJM Southwest Regional Manager, U.S. Advocacy and Mobilization, Alyssa Francois.
Thank you, Derek. It is such a joy to be with you here today. I work from the comfort of my home office, and so I haven't seen this many people in quite some time. Let's make sure this is working here. One more. Oh, and that's the video. Okay, we'll start with a brief video about what IJM does.
So this is the target establishment. First suspect, view for our victims.
And remember, if there's a hazard or dangerous situation, move yourself to a position of cover.
Keep running, you over to the police.
evidence and found out that they were in fact trafficked and they were in fact slaves. These little kids are on this boat. They are not fed. They are abused beyond imagination.
We got to cut you off.
This is a girl. Whenever something like this comes, I imagine in my mind that girl is found.
We have operations all over the world, rescuing people from slavery. Because today there are criminals who abuse children, sell girls.
How old is she? 12. How much? 30. Yeah, I'm happy.
And force families into slavery. Criminals prey on the easiest target, the world's poor, because they expect no one to defend them.
Pareho po tayong mga tao. Hindi po tayo bagay or hayop na pwedeng gamitin lang sa pansarili.
But today, there are thousands of people gathering to seek justice for those in slavery. We are a group of lawyers, counselors, activists, and supporters. We are called International Justice Mission. And together, we form the largest international anti-slavery organization in the world. But slavery won't come to an end until criminals know they can't get away with it. So we partner with local police to arrest and prosecute criminals. This sends a message to slave owners. We will not go away. We stay with the survivors until they are healed, until they are free.
Natulungan po ako ng IJM sa pamamagitan po na sa case ko, sa pagtulong po nila na ma-overcome ko po yung fear.
Each year, we rescue thousands of slaves and protect millions around the world. We are transforming how justice systems protect their citizens. To those who are still enslaved, we promise to find you. We will get you home to your families so you can have the freedom you deserve.
Okay. It's hard to do a better job than our CEO, Gary Haugen, on explaining what IJM does. But we'll dive into a little more detail about our organization. As Derek mentioned, my name is Alyssa Francois. The team I serve on at IJM is the Advocacy and Mobilization team. I get to work with our volunteer leaders across the Southwest of the US to advocate on the federal level, fundraise, and pray on behalf of the work that we're doing in the field. Do we have the presentation? Oh, backwards? Okay.
We understand that. These people are going to make what we have move back to quote-unquote normalcy as rapidly as they can. Then there is this.
No, you're fine. No, that's okay. Is there a way we can pull up the presentation? I have it on my laptop if that works. Okay.
Every time he speaks, like we did with Trump.
Hey, Tom, while we're doing that, we can go through, I'll give a few closing announcements and then we'll come back, and that way we can go all the way to our time. So next, we have virtual meeting sponsorships available. Please let me know if you would like to sponsor a virtual meeting. Our international committee will be meeting at 1:15 today in the governor's room on the 12th floor. And next week, we have an outstanding presenter. It is Joseph Horn, the president of Echoplex. And it says Transforming Minds, Industry, and the Environment. I have no idea what Echoplex is, but it sounds amazing. So we hope that you all come in next week to find out exactly what Echoplex is doing. I'll be sending an email this weekend also with the opportunity to plant flags for the Veterans Day and for some other upcoming things that we have. And while we've got a few minutes, is there anything anyone would like to say from the floor? We've never done this, but hey, who cares? Oh, Bob Mitchell, what a shock. Bob Mitchell has something to say. Hey, excellent. You were a Rotary, were you an ambassadorial scholar for Rotary? So for anyone who has kids or younger folks that are eligible, what age did you travel to abroad? So briefly, so you were able to apply for a scholarship to go abroad that changed the trajectory of your life, and what's the name of the program within Rotary? Well, Bob has your membership application ready. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. Thank you for your patience.
All right, this is what post-COVID in person is all about. Okay, great. So jumping right in, let's address the problem, right? Because if there wasn't a problem, we wouldn't be sitting here today to talk about it. This issue of violence is every part of someone's life who's living in poverty. It's as much of a part of their life as homelessness, hunger, or disease, right? This is not the violence of war or genocide that we see in the news that we typically think about, but this is common everyday violence that is already against the law. These are crimes like slavery, violence against women and children, and police abuse of power. I might have lost my clicker over here. Can we go to the next? Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. So there are 5 billion people living in the world that they are living in what we call the justice gap. This means they are living outside the protection of the law. They cannot rely on law enforcement or a justice system to protect them. So while their wealthier neighbors may be able to actually pay for safety and security, they cannot. Next slide, please. So I find myself trying to envision what this looks like, to not have 911 to call. That number does not exist, right? For most of us in the US, it is hard to imagine what it would look like to live outside the protection of the law, to not be able to rely on law enforcement or a justice system to protect you, or even know the laws that exist to protect you. So what does that look like? Imagine that you are exploited in sex trafficking. It is unlikely that law enforcement knows the laws that exist against trafficking, let alone how to collect evidence, conduct an investigation, or even organize an operation to free you. Or say you're a victim of sexual assault. Law enforcement actually may end up doing more harm by requiring you to return to the scene of the crime and explain in excruciating detail what has been done to you, with the person who assaulted you looking in the entire time. Or the system may be completely overwhelmed. This is a photo that our team took from a records room in Uganda. So if you are a widow who was violently evicted from her land and you bring your case forward, it may stall indefinitely. You may become one of the many names in many cases who are simply awaiting their day in court. Or imagine you have escaped brutal enslavement on a fishing vessel in Thailand, and you report this to the local authorities. They may never actually arrest or convict the trafficker or the boat captain. This leaves you and your family susceptible to violent retribution, and your neighbors may become the next victims. So in these communities where there is a lack of strong justice systems and law enforcement is not trained properly, criminals thrive. They expect no consequences for their actions, so they continue to enslave and abuse vulnerable people. So for example, there are currently 40 million people in the world who are enslaved. There are 570 million women who experience gender-based violence every single year. And 33% of youth globally have experienced police abuse of power. So I think it's fair to say this is a decent problem we're facing. We do have a solution. There are many organizations that have solutions. IJM and our partners have a unique theory of change that we implement to help build communities where every single person can expect to be safe and protected. Our team is a team of lawyers, community activists, social workers, and other professionals who have been on the front lines for more than 20 years. We work across 29 offices in 22 countries, helping to protect those that are living in poverty. On the map here, you'll see the countries highlighted in light blue. Those are our advancement offices. These are the offices where we fundraise, we advocate on the federal level, and we pray on behalf of the work that's happening in the field. Our offices highlighted in dark blue here are the offices where we're actually doing casework. Each of these offices focus on casework types that are either slavery, violence against women and children, or police abuse of power. What I think is really unique is that 95% of our field staff are natives to the countries where they're working. This is pivotal as we are creating relationships and helping train law enforcement and justice systems in order to change their communities. This map is not to say that these violent crimes do not happen in the places where we have our advancement offices, or even where we don't have any offices at all. Our teams are highly diligent about where to choose to pursue this work and the type of casework they pursue. So our team has an audacious goal. By 2030, we are going to protect 500 million children, women, and men who are living in poverty from violence. So how do we do that, right? It's a big goal. You can't run at it blindly. So our theory of change is really focused on, and if I haven't mentioned this enough, the local partnerships. We want to make sure that when IJM steps out of that community, that it can still thrive, that it can still protect their community members. So first, we strengthen justice systems. We work alongside justice system officials to effectively respond to cases of violence. And then we help them pursue meaningful changes that support survivors, decreases in deterrence of other criminals, and dramatically decreases rates of violence in their community. We rescue and restore victims. Our teams in the field work alongside law enforcement to rescue individual victims of violence. And then we walk alongside them. We make sure they have what they need to thrive. We partner with other nonprofits and community services in their area to provide survivors with small business loans, housing, education. So they're not just surviving, they're actually thriving. We bring criminals to justice. We train prosecutors and judges on the laws that exist in their countries against these types of crimes. And then we ensure that these criminals are brought to justice. This really helps in the deterrence aspect, right? If you are a criminal and you are seeing others actually being held accountable for your crimes, the risk becomes too high. And lastly, we scale demand for protection. We bring together amazing community leaders such as yourselves. We bring together governments, churches, and other community activists to train them to help them advocate on behalf of those living in poverty. We need to make sure that this work goes beyond the hands of IJM. So we have a big problem. We have a solution. My next question is always, okay, well, does it actually work? Are those that are living in poverty actually becoming safer in these communities? IJM and our partners have proven that sustainable change is possible. To date, I actually got these numbers yesterday. Our teams have rescued more than 66,000 people from violent oppression. And we have convicted more than 3,200 criminals in local courts. And while this number is amazing, and this number gives me chills every time I see it, the power of deterrence is so much stronger than that. We have proven that people in these communities are actually safer than they were before. So they don't ever have to be a part of this 66,000 number. So an example I'm excited to share is from our work in the Philippines. When our team first got to the Philippines, bars and brothels were full of children being exploited in sex trafficking. We were granted a project with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a 5-year project, to see if we could actually reduce the prevalence of children that were being exploited in trafficking. The goal here was to see, oh, you can go back one more. We already gave away what the actual result was. The goal was to see a 20% reduction in the prevalence of children in these bars and brothels. So from 2006 to 2010, our team got to work. We partnered with law enforcement to rescue children from this terrible world of sex trafficking. We prosecuted criminals, we walked alongside survivors, and we trained prosecutors and judges on the laws that existed. So by the time to see, did this actually work? Were children actually protected and safer in Cebu than they were before? We saw a 72% reduction. That change is not only a great goal that we got to go back and report to say, we beat our goal, right? This change represents children who never have to be called survivors. They just get to be called children. They were never sold into sex trafficking. This change represents a community that saw criminals were held accountable for their crimes. Other criminals saw that the risk was too high. So then the question was this just a unique scenario in Cebu? Did it happen because we had great partnerships there? Was it because of the support from the Gates Foundation? So our team decided to replicate this program in Manila and Pampanga. In Manila, we saw a 75% reduction. And in Pampanga, we saw an 86% reduction in the prevalence of children being sold in sex trafficking. So again, not only had we protected these children, we had rescued individual victims of violence, we had trained community leaders on how to do this after IJM steps out of the city, right? But we had proven in community after community that this sustainable change is actually possible. So this is how we plan to protect 500 million children, women, and men from violence by 2030. We're extremely excited about this goal. And I thank you so much for the time that y'all have taken to hear more about this work. I know it can be heavy, and it's hard to see and it's hard to take in, but the exciting part, and I know I didn't talk a ton about the work we do here in the US, is that there are things you can do. I have the privilege of working with our volunteer leaders across the US that help fuel this mission to make sure that we can continue opening field offices and continue rescuing people. So if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And if you're interested in learning more, please come find me. And I would be more than happy to send you information. If you want to go one slide further, if you just want to not talk to anyone at all and just type this into your phone, you can get updates from IJM on how to learn more. Again, thank you so much for your time. And 1 minute, so I did good. Thank you.
Stay here if you would, stay here if you would. Alyssa, first of all, thank you for your grace and helping us, be patient as we roll with the punches today. But what I really want to do is thank you for not just facing head on, but for living every day a part of our society that exists that we don't have to see if we don't want to. And the difference that you're making, what we saw in Cebu, if we could expand that to every other country in the world and help the 40 million people in the world who are enslaved, which I had no idea, and the great work you're doing in the Philippines. We need more people in this world like you. It is a tradition of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth to donate a book to the Fort Worth Public Library in honor of the program that you gave today. And so we have a copy of the book plate that will be put in that book to remember your talk here forever. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're wonderful. And I was also, Alyssa, I was going to mention, I saw somebody pop online on the Zoom call with the same last name, and your mother-in-law, Rose. So if you want to score some points right now, look right into that camera.
Hi, Rose. Derek told me to say, and I just forgot to say this, he told me it would help win points. My father was a part of the Grapevine Rotary Club, served as president there for quite some time. I see some nods, so you were correct saying this. So he should be on the Zoom as well. So thank you for the support. Hi to everyone on Zoom.
Awesome. Thank you. Excellent. Well, folks, I think I gave the announcements. The International Committee will be moved. They'll be meeting in the Horizon Room right down the street. One small change. The last thing I'd like to do is the ladies from the Young Women's Leadership Academy will be graduating in the next few weeks. And they reached out to Rotary and they said, can you send a little video message, on behalf of Rotary? And I said, I'll do you one better. Instead of it just coming from me, let's have it come from the whole club. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna selfie myself here, video, and I'm gonna say a little something, and then I'm gonna turn it around so everyone can see you all, and maybe I'll count to 1 through 3. We'll do congratulations. Everybody can say congratulations and a big round of applause. Does that work? Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's turn it on selfie mode, Carlo. Here we go. All right. Hey ladies, this is Carlo from the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. You can see right there, we're actually in the middle of a meeting. It's a really important one, and we've stopped everything so we could say this very important message to you. We just want to congratulate you for all the hard work, for all of you going to college. We could not be prouder of you, and on behalf of the 260 members of our club, we all just want to say 1, 2, 3. That was totally spontaneous. We did not plan that at all. Congratulations. All right, what a great way to end a meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Hi, everybody.